What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. And oh boy, does it feel good to be back. I've missed you guys. I really have missed FPL as well, man, but we are back, and FPL have come back with an absolute bang as they have released some crazy new changes for the upcoming season, guys. And I'm just going to basically give you guys my thoughts and feelings on these new changes. Now, there are two massive changes, right, to this game. And the first change that I want to speak about is the new chip update that they've brought to the game. We now basically have every single chip twice, right? We can now use bench boost twice, free hit twice, triple captain twice, and a wild card twice. As you guys can see by the graphic on screen, the first set of chips have to be used between game week 1 and game week 19. The second set of chips have to be used between game week 20 and game week 38. But I can't lie, I absolutely love this change, bro. I love it. It's a sensational change, bruv. Round of applause to the FPL headquarters. I can't lie, man. What a change this is. There's more points up for grabs. Bring me the chaos. Bring me the vibes. Bring me the difference in game plan. Bring me the difference in game strategies. I feel like it opens up so many doors, so many avenues, right? And I feel like it could potentially break there being a template in the game, right? That is my personal opinion. I think it could. I really do think it could. There's so many different strategies now that are sort of available to you, right? And now it does beg the question. The first thing I thought about with this is bench boost early on, like bench boost game week 1, for example, is something that many people probably wouldn't have considered without this change being brought to the game. But now that we do have two, now that we can use every chip twice, I do feel like, especially with bench boost, right? Because look, I want to talk about bench boost real quick because it's a chip that I don't really like, if I'm totally honest, right? It's a very tedious chip. It's very awkward, and it just requires a lot of, I don't know, man, I guess a lot of planning. It can be awkward at times, and it has got me thinking, okay, I now essentially have to use the bench boost in the first 19 game weeks, so when is the best time to use it? And I've been thinking about it all day. Now, it's got me thinking, and you guys are going to call me crazy, right? Because I wasn't necessarily thinking to start the season without Mohamed Salah or Erling Haaland, but potentially now, because of this update we've got, I might be looking at a relatively early wildcard. But before I wildcard, I would start the season without Mohamed Salah and without Erling Haaland. Now, you guys are probably calling me stupid. You guys are probably saying, here he goes again, right? What an absolute donut. What an idiot. When he flops it again, when he doesn't pick Mohamed Salah, he's going to start crying, whining, moaning. I know you guys are probably saying all of that, but hear me out for a second. Hear me out for a second. I'm not going to lie. I do think it is best to use the bench boost before using your wildcard, right? I'd rather build a squad that is bench boostable and then wildcard out of that team. So because I have that sort of mindset, I do think starting the season potentially starting the season without Mohamed Salah or even Erling Haaland makes a bit of sense. And the reason why I say that is because if you guys look at this fixture ticker here, right, at the start of the season, Liverpool do have a pretty tough fixture run. And when I mean the start of the season, I literally mean the first 3 games, right? The first 3 games for Liverpool aren't really that easy. Of course, Bournemouth at home, right, is a very nice fixture on paper. But then after that, it's Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. So number one, when you think about captaincy, you're not really going to be captaining. I mean, I guess it does depend on what players you've got in your team, but I wouldn't really feel happy about captaining Salah against Newcastle away at St James's Park. Absolutely not. No way. Not on God's green earth. And also, I wouldn't really feel comfortable captaining Salah against Arsenal at home. So when I look at the fact that I probably won't be captaining Mohamed Salah if I had him, I don't necessarily need him. Now, what this has got me thinking is an early bench boost, potentially in the first 3 game weeks, and then wildcard out of it during the international break in game week 4. Now, the reason why I also say that is because Erling Haaland does have pretty good fixtures, right? It's decent. Wolves away, Spurs at home, Brighton away for the first 3. It's not bad, but I wouldn't say, again, it all depends on price. It is really hard to make these statements without knowing the prices, but just on face value, looking at the fixtures, I wouldn't say you need Haaland. I wouldn't say Haaland is a must-have, right? So I'm thinking, okay, cool. Go without Haaland, go without Salah, build a good, deep overall squad, fill your bench with quality players, fill your starting 11 with quality players, and then bench boost in one of the first 3 game weeks and then wildcard out of it in game week 4. That's something I have been thinking about because essentially, right, because a bench boost requires you to have a semi-decent bench, right? if you had a draft with Haaland and Salah together, it's going to be very, very hard for you to get a good overall squad. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, it's best to use the bench boost when you don't have Mohamed Salah, or if you don't have Mohamed Salah and Haaland, because then it allows you to spread the funds around. And I think the best time to not have Salah is at the start of the season, because as I said, the first 3 games as a whole isn't that good. And the same for Haaland. I think Liverpool and City have better fixtures later on. Maybe from Liverpool, you could argue from game week 4 onwards. Man City from about game week 6 onwards, their fixtures do get a bit better, right? So for that reason, I would say at the start of the season, going without those two does kind of make sense. And look, I've also taken a picture of the game week 3 fixtures, right? Because I think game week 3 could be, if you ignore Mohamed Salah and potentially Erling Haaland. But yeah, for now, let's just say it's very hard to say to ignore Salah and Haaland because I just don't know the prices. So let's just assume Salah and Haaland are both 15 million, right? Just for the sake of the argument. Let's say they're both very, very expensive. They're both 15 million or they're both 14.5 million. Let's say you've ignored both of them. You've built a good overall squad. Game week 3, you could probably have a very, very good bench boost team because I think the fixtures here are really good. You've got Aston Villa against Palace at home. So the likes of Watkins, Rodgers, very, very valuable options, especially because Villa do have good fixtures for the start of the season. I think most of us will probably have Rodgers or Watkins in our team, or a Villa defender in our team, because Villa have some really, really good fixtures for the first sort of 6 to 7 to 8 game weeks. You got Chelsea at home against Fulham, so you got the likes of Cole Palmer, Cucurella. You got Man United against Burnley. Now, of course, Manchester United don't have an easy start, but if you're wildcarding early on in, let's say, game week 4, then you can afford to have a couple of Man United players in your team. You can afford to have a Man United defender in your team. You can maybe have Acuna or a Brian Mbeumo in your team, for example. Of course, again, we don't know the prices, but you get what I'm saying. So, in terms of Man United having a good fixture, you can see here at home to Burnley. You've got Brentford away to Sunderland, Spurs at home to Bournemouth, Everton away to Wolves, Newcastle away to Leeds, Man City away to Brighton. But obviously, assuming that you don't go Haaland, maybe you go for a Marmoush, I'm not too sure. But you've got Forest at home to West Ham. And then the beauty of it is that Liverpool are playing against Arsenal, right? So you would essentially ignore Arsenal players, ignore Liverpool players, and ignore Erling Haaland, and build just a good overall squad for the first 3 game weeks that you could sort of rotate, where you could rotate players in and out, and then eventually bench boost in game week 3. Because I think, if you have Villa, Chelsea, United, Brentford, Spurs, Everton, Newcastle players, and maybe some Forest players, you are laughing here in terms of a bench boost. So yeah, it just had me thinking. Anyway, I've probably been rambling for way too long. I don't want to make this video so long, but yeah, it just had me thinking. Of course, it's kind of hard to come to a conclusion of what the best play is when you don't know the fixtures. And I guess when you don't know how good teams are, we need to see how teams perform in pre-season. But yeah, man, overall, right, my thoughts on this chip, on this new update with the chip, is I like it. As I said, bring me the chaos, right? Bring me the extra points. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's very, very fun, and I'm just excited for the season to start. I honestly cannot wait. So yeah, man, that's just my quick thoughts. Now, another change that FPL did add to the game was defensive points, extra points for defensive contributions. Now, what FPL have said is that any defender who reaches a combined total of 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles, right, in a single match will score 2 FPL points. Now, I do want to point out that this is a max. This is the max that any player can get from making these defensive actions, right? You cannot get more 2 points. So once you pass that 10 threshold of clearances, blocks, interception, and tackles, once you pass that, it doesn't matter how much more you get, you can't get more than 2 points. So if someone makes 11 defensive actions in a game and someone makes 30 defensive actions in a game, they're still going to get the same 2 points. Now, at first, I was quite frustrated by this change, right? I'm going to be totally honest. I was quite frustrated about this change. I didn't really like it. I didn't really understand it. I think the simplicity of FPL is what many people love about it. Certainly myself, right? I absolutely love the simplicity of FPL. So for me, I'm not really interested in checking, who got the most blocks? Did my player intercept the ball 5 times today? Did he make 10 tackles in a game? I don't want to be checking that, bruv. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I can't be bothered for that shit, bro. I cannot be bothered. I don't want to be watching a game, counting every tackle. Nah, I don't want that. So for me personally, right, I didn't like it. As I said, I like the simplicity of FPL. I just like goals, points for goals, assists, clean sheets. Happy days, bro. That's my personal opinion. Now, what I will say is, although I don't necessarily like this change, I do think the impact of this change on the game and the way we think is very, very minimal. I don't think it's going to change the way we now decide to pick players, really and truly. Like, we're still going to pick defenders from teams that get clean sheets. That's going to be still the number one priority. And the reason why I say that the sort of the change that FPL have made has a minimal impact on the game. The reason why I say that is because if you look at this sort of data that FPL posted with defenders that had the most defensive contributions last season, right? So we can see here that James Tarkowski, if you applied this logic or this sort of defensive action system to last season, right? If you applied that point system to last season, James Tarkowski would have got an extra 44 points, right? Because he made, as you guys can see here, he made 44. He got 44 defensive contribution points in total throughout the season. Now, you might say, oh, wow, that's actually quite a lot. What a massive change. But actually, when you think about it, that's not a lot at all. An extra 44 points over the span of 38 games is not a lot. On average, that's just over 1 point per game, right? I'm not sure if that was including bonus points or what, but still, in my opinion, it doesn't have that big of an impact in my personal opinion. I mean, 44 extra points over a 38 game week season, it's not a lot. As I said, it's literally just an extra one, on average an extra 1 point, right? Just a bit above that. So for me, when I saw that, when I actually understood it and thought about it more, I was like, okay, I don't like this change, but hey, I don't really think it makes that big of an impact. I don't think it's going to change the way we think. I think, look, when you're maybe picking between two centre-backs, maybe from the same team, you might pick the defender who seems to make more defensive actions in a game. But for me, I'm still going to prioritise the attacking fullbacks of the game. I'm still going to prioritise those defenders that are more likely to get clean sheets, right? I'm not going to pick someone from a relegation team because they're getting peppered all game and they're getting lots of blocks, but still they lose 4-0. It doesn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you can get an extra 2 points for defensive actions, but if you're conceding 3, 4, 5 goals, boo fucking who, mate? It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. You're still going to get nothing, right? You're going to get absolutely nothing. So for me, with the way I'm thinking anyway, I'm still going to prioritize players that are more likely to get clean sheets, and I'm still going to prioritize defenders and midfielders that are more likely to score goals, provide attacking returns, and get clean sheets, of course. So yeah, for me, yeah, I'm not really too fussed with this change. What I will say though is fullbacks that make a lot of defensive actions but also get a lot of attacking returns will be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So maybe looking at someone like Daniel Munoz, right? Here's someone that gets so forward, so advanced, for Crystal Palace last season. I think he's also a player that is relatively high on the defensive actions table. So he could be a really, really good option. And I guess from that aspect, I quite like it, digging a little bit deeper. But yeah, overall, I don't really think there was a change that was needed, to be fair. But it is what it is. Ultimately, it is what it is. And look, what I quickly want to show you guys, right, is the impact of defensive contributions on last season's defender rankings in terms of total points. So this is how it would actually look if you applied the same point system to defenders last season. Milenkovic would have been top, then Murillo, then Van Dijk, then Gvardiol, then Collins, then Munoz, then Trent, Tarkowski, Lacroix, and Howson. So that's how, right, the defender table would have been looking this season. So last season, if you applied the point system to the defenders. Now, as you guys can see, this is still heavily influenced by clean sheets, bro. Nottingham Forest were up there for clean sheets. Liverpool were up there for clean sheets. Gvardiol was up there for, I guess, attacking returns, not necessarily the clean sheets. But even Man City at one point towards the end of the season, they did actually rack up the clean sheets. But yeah, Gvardiol was there for clean sheets, but also attacking returns. And then same with Munoz. So yeah, for me, I still think it's important to prioritize clean sheets and plays that get attacking returns. But yeah, ultimately, one more thing I actually do want to point out. I was about to end the video, but before I do that, one thing I also want to say is with midfielders like Caicedo, Anderson, just a guy in the game, Norgard, they're still not options for me. They are still not options for me. Unless they are 4.5 midfielders, then fine. Maybe they could be an option as a 5th midfielder. But in all honesty, they're not, like, I'm still not going to feel comfortable playing these players, in my opinion. And another thing I want to point out is these midfielders are also more likely to get yellow cards as well. You know, as much as Caicedo will be up there for defensive actions, he'll also be up there for the yellow cards, and that's -1. So he might get his 10 defensive actions, but he might pick up a yellow card, and then that will just be only a +1 net gain on points, right? So look, for me, I still think players like Caicedo, Declan Rice, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Elliot Anderson, they're not options for me. They're really, really not options for me. I'm still going to be prioritising midfielders that score and assist. That's just my opinion. But yeah, all in all, I'm still very, very happy with FPL, and I just can't wait for the game to be released. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I'm going to end it there. I do feel like I kind of rambled. Sorry, I've just got a lot to say, and quite frankly, I missed the game. So FPL, please, if you're watching this, please just release the game on Monday. I need it more than you can believe. I missed this game, bro. I missed this game. But yeah, guys, it feels good to be back. FPL is just right around the corner. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. But until then, I'm out. Peace.